This is a big moment, and like I said, the way we respond to it as a people and as a community is going to be very important. I'm encouraged and inspired by the first responses, but we also, it's the time for leadership is now to start providing, and focus as much on the future as we are on the past. That's the necessary element, Chuck, in my opinion, on how you get past these things. The point of the whole thing, the point of the statues, the point of the memorials, the point of the commemorations on legislative floors and Latino caucuses throughout the country has been to focus on the values proposition he was trying to bring to lift people up out of their current situations. That should forever be the goal, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, but certainly for the Latino community at this point in our history. And my hope is that something positive comes out of it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast. Last week, I talked about how summer has arrived in D.C. Well, old man Winter said, hold my beer and watch this. I am freezing my ass off in Washington. Winter has come back, Mike Madrid.
We're in the midst of a heat wave here on the West Coast, hitting 90 degrees in some spots. It's really warm. The problem is in Sacramento, your favorite town in California, allergy season. So many trees, like your face blows up because allergies are so bad. So things are changing, man. For everything, there's a season. Everything in its own due time. And I guess it is still cold there, but it's warm here. So we're heading into the spring.
There's a famous TV show where this guy looks out and he's like, winter's coming. Little did me and you know it would have to do with one of our iconic leaders getting blown up about a bunch of disturbing shit in his past. Oh, my God, Mike Madrid.
Yeah, New York Times this morning wrote a really bombshell story about César Chávez, the iconic Mexican-American Latino and civil rights leader and activist, co-founder is very important in this story, co-founder of the iconic and famed United Farm Workers movement union that really gave voice for the first time to people who were voiceless, the farm worker, those that were really abused, indentured servants, really slaves, I would argue. Up until the 1970s in California. The angelic kind of cherubic face of César Chávez is something that has adorned Mexican-American homes for many, many years since. Iconic photos, again, of him and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the Central Valley at the end of his hunger strike, which forced the rights of farm workers to organize. This is a big, big deal. These allegations are deeply disturbing. If you haven't read the New York Times article, Andreas, if you could put a link down below. And then one other bombshell, I don't know if you read this part of it or not, Chuck, but this is really huge. Dolores Huerta, 96 years old, co-founder, who has continued this fight, spoke out for the first time. She had 2 children by César, while the product of rape. So this is a moment of deep reckoning and self-reflection, I think, for Latinos, for labor leaders, for civil rights leaders. You are already seeing the United Farm Workers Union distance themselves from all the César Chávez events coming up. Remember, there's the César Chávez holiday is on March 31st coming up. And I think that you're going to see a lot of these statues, memorials being taken down quite appropriately, in my opinion. I want to hear yours. And the goal now becomes, how do you honor a movement, honor activities that were good, while also respecting the rights and sensitivities of those who were abused, those who were victimized, those who were groomed. Some of these girls were underage, very young girls. And I don't know. It's a perplexing moment. There's a whole wide range of emotions. I mean, how are you processing this, Chuck?
I think like everybody else, everybody knows that I'm a product of the labor movement. This is deeply personal for me. Like, I have spent my entire life as one of the few Latino labor leaders of this country. And so I felt a range of emotions. Like, when I first heard of it, I just dismissed it like there's no way. There's just no way. And then even when I heard folks chattering about it yesterday, I was like, man, why would they want to do this to a guy who's been dead for 37 years? Like, can't you just let him live in peace? And then I saw the New York Times thing today, which, by the way, is, if you listen to it, 28 minutes long. Like, it is a long in-depth article. They did their research. They have confirmation. And I'm just shattered. I am just heartbroken. And I feel the worst for the women and the little girls that he fucked with. Just that's proven. Whether you like that or not, that's just fact. It's in the damn story. I'm as much heartbroken as the folks around the movement who now will have to deal with, because he ain't here to face repercussions. And his family, who his daughters, his granddaughters, his kids, like, do they have to suffer for something that somebody sick like this did? And I'll say that because if you read the New York Times article, it's pretty emphatic. Like, for all of you out there that'll be like, well, we don't know, it was a long time. Read the article. Like, get your head out of your ass. So I feel the worst today for his family. I feel the worst today for a movement that he's been the face of that still did incredible things for farm workers. And I think that I don't think we've ever, Mike, seen where somebody of this, I don't know, prestige, or somebody with this
stature,
whatever it is, almost like a mythical figure, gets found out so much shit about. What do you do now?
Well, that's the question. And I jumped on Substack yesterday to talk about that. I'll be writing a piece for the McClatchy papers in the coming days, making the argument that there is, as we enter this new, age and era of information flows moving as fast as they are, we're realizing that everybody is fallible, everybody is human. We've got to stop this propensity to deify people. I mean, there was a cult-like following around Cesar Chavez, no matter how you say it. In my family, it wasn't, he was somebody we respected, but he wasn't revered reverentially. We were not farm workers, although we lived around the agricultural industry of Ventura County. One of the key organizing counties of the United Farm Workers Movement happened all around me. We were not in labor, but we understood and recognized that this was a voice for the underserved. And this was also a big part of the social justice movement of the Catholic Church. There were a lot of people involved in these union organizing efforts, fighting for people that were basically working for slave labor, slave wages. And it's important to recognize that, again, this movement was more than him. And like I said, there was this need, I think, to kind of have an iconic image in the Latino community. And I'm not taking away what he did and what others did in organizing. It was profound. Dolores Huerta's life work is a beautiful masterpiece in fighting for the powerless. That's what politics should be about, in my opinion. But the idea that somehow all of these people are above all of this is very dangerous. And we've got to, it also doesn't, the irony of the moment does not evade me when those that are leading the charge to pull down Cesar Chavez memorials and statues are the same people pushing and fighting to put up the statues, return the statues of Confederate soldiers. Like, what does this say about us? And I think what it ultimately says is we've got to find a way to memorialize and institute the virtues, the good in people, without making the people the god, the demigod, the cult leader here. You're seeing it, even in Trump world right now. This is a guy who was clearly around, if not directly involved, with underage girls. It's there. Point A and point B are right there. And yet he's still deified. He's still looked to as this, transhuman leader. And I don't mean to go on and on about this, but I am shaken at the moment, not just because of what was lost for the Latino community, the big asterisk now that goes on a huge part of Latino political history, but more importantly, like, this should be the wake-up call for not engaging in this type of veneration for any person. It doesn't make any sense. We're all human beings, and we can memorialize people's good actions and good deeds without putting them literally on a marble pedestal. I live, Chuck, 4 or 5 blocks away from Cesar Chavez Park here with the big bronze statue of Caesar. Like, this is in California, he's an icon that's kind of like bigger than life. And this is gonna be a tough week. It's a big moment of reckoning, and there's gonna be a lot of debates on the floor of the legislature on what we should and shouldn't do with all of this imagery. Both Latino leaders in the state Senate, our state Senate and state Assembly, Robert Rivas and Monique Limon. You met Senate President Monique Limon. They're from farm worker families, And they issued a statement today saying, we're going to stand with victims first. If this, stuff is even remotely true and credible, which it clearly is, there's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be a change. No one's above this, and we're going to have to move on from it.
It'll be interesting because, to your point, Mike, and for all of you and most of you who listen to this podcast, you knew who Cesar Chavez was. You knew what the farm workers meant. I never remember as a young organizer when the strawberry pickers went out, and people remember the grape strikes were the big ones, but that was before I was hired into the factory. But the thing I remember, because I was involved in it, is the strawberries, right? There was the grapes and the strawberries, and they were trying to, fight for these wages for these workers. And in every city in America, there's a Martin Luther King Street and Park, and there's a Cesar Chavez Street and Park. In Washington, D.C., not a mile from my house is Cesar Chavez Elementary School.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff is going to now have to be figured out how we deal with it. And I think it's an opportunity, Democrats, for us to rise above this and say, we're going to demand this justice for somebody who obviously did horrible things, just like you should be demanding that of your president and of Epstein and anybody. I don't see this as some old brown leader who whatever, or some whatever. This is like, if you do this stuff to little girls, you should be prosecuted, you should be forgotten, and you should be erased from history. Bottom line, end of story. That's Chuck Rocha. That's the way I personally feel. If it happened, and everything that I've seen sure looks like it, how we deal with it is what we've never seen. Cesar Chavez was brown people's Martin Luther King in many instances. I don't speak for all Mexicans. I don't speak for all Latinos.
Yeah.
But he was the biggest figure in our small, limited diaspora in America, which is not that old. And so when you look to what that means, think about if this would have come out about Martin Luther King. Not saying that. I'm just saying, given a direct reflection in the Black community. Now we have to deal with somebody is that big in history. Schools, streets, parks, holidays. Joe Biden had a bust of this man in the Oval Office. Like, it's gigantic. And we don't know anything this morning other than what we just read that made me feel like I was going to puke. I was so upset about reading it. Like, there's just no way when you've looked up to somebody. I didn't think of him as a god. I just had been taught as a little boy that he is somebody that did what Chuck did. He was an organizer. He was a regular guy. He cared about folks. And so, like, to me, I sit this morning and think about this, and I'll flip it back to you, Mike, is there's a million kids and a million organizers and work that's happened in his name around the country that's beautiful and good. And people fighting for the little guy and fighting for that Latino taco stand owner who's just trying to make it, who ICE now is trying to deport, and all these things. But that's been done in the farm worker name, not Cesar Chavez's name. That work should continue, and we shouldn't demagogue the union, his family, or others who are doing good work, of anybody that's doing that kind of good work. How we separate that will really determine now what we do as an Americans, as a civil society, is what we're looking for going forward, Mike.
And that's right. And I think it's a moment, again, to kind of pause and reflect. And when you lose a big chunk of your history like this, because that's really what it is. This is like losing the foundational piece of that moment of Latino political history. All it leaves you is the future, which is good. It feels unanchored. It feels scary. It feels sad. You get this range of emotions, nauseous, like you said, angry, sad, questioning, what does this all mean? But in the final analysis, a lot of good comes from a moment like this when you start to realize that it was never about one person. It was never about one person. That's literally what organized labor means, right? It's about all of us working together. And even though I was not from the labor movement, even though we were not farm workers, there was still this sense of solidarity. There was still this sense of like, there's a voice for all of us. And that's what we should be celebrating. That's where the focus should be. And this is that opportunity to recommit to that. And so while the stories for the next few weeks and for all of history will now rightfully focus on these failings and the damage that he did to people, we must also really recommit to not putting our faith and hope and expectations in human beings, because they will always disappoint us, always. That's what being a fallible human being is. But we must really double, triple, quadruple down on the idea that what he was doing, the actions, the deeds, the cause was absolutely righteous.
Right. And I think that as the community circles around highlighting the work that they did at the Farm Workers Union is the key this morning. I think there's going to be a lot of people on the internet with hot takes like there always are. But I remind folks now that the guy that's in the White House right now is not that virtuous. There's lots of things going on in America right now that are pretty disgusting, and we live in these cultish worlds of where we think, to Mike's point, that these folks are up on, whether they're just fallible human beings, but we want to think that they're gods because they're Trump, or in this case, because they were Cesar Chavez. Like, again, I'm going to revert back to thinking about, his poor family. I'm friends with his granddaughter. I'm friends with some of his grandsons. Like, they've been to my house.
Yeah.
And are some of the nicest, kindest, giving people that
Great
I have
people.
ever known.
For sure.
And for their grandfather or their father, whoever, to have this kind of stain is not a reflection on them. And I'm never going to judge them in that way. I'm going to welcome them back over here and see if there's things I can do to help them console what unbelievable emotions they must be going through as well, because all of us have been through some shit. Y'all know Chuck Roach has been through some shit, and I've had to deal with courts and deal with all the other things in my life. And when you get to that point, you look around and find out who your friends are.
Yeah.
And it's time for a lot of us to be friends to folks who had nothing to do with this, and figure out what the hell we're going to do as a community about a stain that's definitely going to be there on this part of Latino history that's just horrible.
Yeah. Are you getting any texts from people, from other labor folks or other Latino activists, or not yet? A little bit too early?
It's too early. I think it'll start here in the next day or two. It's ironic that I am on every major Latino group chat in America, and
it's quiet.
It's quiet. I think everybody's just trying to
absorb what
process. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's what I was asking. Is it too early? Because, the story started breaking yesterday. The Labor Fed is meeting in Sacramento here. California State Labor Fed is having its big annual event here, endorsing candidates.
Right now?
Right now.
Oh,
right down the street. And, this is their third day of their conference. So the story broke as this was all kind of happening. And I have a friend at UFW, and I kind of sent a text and said, because UFW issued a statement yesterday morning.
For those of you who don't know, UFW is United Farm Workers Union.
Yeah, we'll try and put the statement down too. It's important because of it's very masterfully written. It's very eloquent, and it's very delicate and sensitive. And it basically says, this is before the New York Times story came out. The fact that UFW was basically saying we're distancing ourselves from this activity gives it even more credence that this clearly happened.
Mike, isn't there like a large multi-$100 million foundation around his name? Or is it something that the farm workers own?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know the source of its funding, but again, I think that the foundation was actually the source of some of the archival data.
Oh, yeah.
It's a national park where his home is in Delano, down in, I think it's in Delano, which is down in the Great Central Valley here. So yeah, it's a national park. Obama came out. You probably remember Jill Biden came out early in the tenure to, this is a rallying cry for a lot of folks, both in labor, civil rights movement, and democratic politics, and the Latino community broadly. I mean, I'm not going to undercount that. This is not a partisan thing. This is somebody who is involved in giving Latinos a voice where there had never been this type of a character before in American political history, U.S. political history.
Are 66 years old, who've been living with this for 66 years, these young women.
Who
started out in the story as 13-year-olds, and some would say in the story starting to be groomed at 8
years old. So yeah, this is a big moment. And like I said, the way we respond to it as a people and as a community is going to be very important. I'm encouraged and inspired by the first responses, but we also, it's the time for leadership is now to start providing, and focus as much on the future as we are on the past. That's the necessary element, Chuck, in my opinion, on how you get past these things. If you're stuck about defending a sordid past about a figure, you become lost and mired in just that chapter, and you aren't able to transform it. The point of the whole thing, the point of the statues, the point of the memorials, the point of the commemorations on legislative floors and Latino caucuses throughout the country has been to focus on the values proposition he was trying to bring to lift people up out of their current situations. That should forever be the goal, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, but certainly for the Latino community at this point in our history. And my hope is that something positive comes out of it.
Well, we're going to talk about this a lot, I imagine, as the year goes on with all the fallout that's going to happen to it. We're going to change topics now and get back to the Latino vote regular programming. But before we go again, I want to shout out the main thing here is these victims, and we should think about them and think about the courage that they've had in holding this for so long and trying to be heard. And so as a podcast, I know you feel the same way, Mike, is that it's an incredible amount of courage that those women showed, and I'm glad that they did. And sometimes hard truths are hard to learn, and I think we're going to learn something in the next few days of who we are and what we're going to do. And switching gears now there was a primary last night, Mike, in Illinois.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have heard about the Illini state, but the Illini state up around the Chicagos have got a few Latino voters. Have you seen any Latino voters up around Chicago?
I have. I actually got invited to speak in Chicago on my book tour, and I was in this large room. It was like called the University Room of some big swanky place, University Club, excuse me. And there were hundreds of these successful, accomplished Latino business owners. I'm like, is this the Midwest? Looks like it could have been Orange County, California. A lot of Latino voters.
We went there one time, Mike, together, I remind you, to Northwestern University.
Oh, that's right. We did.
And got to meet all these Latino reporters because of our good professor friend there. Is it Gerardo?
Jerry Cadava.
Cadava, right. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He had us up there, and I got to see the Northwestern.
Yeah.
I tell you this, y'all, because I got a little bit of a spur in my saddle, as we say. And what that means is it's a little uncomfortable. I don't mean around my ass. I just mean as a metaphor. Did I say that right? As metaphorically. I think that's how they say it. And what I mean by that is there's 1.1 million Latino registered voters. Let me make sure I get that right. Yeah, registered voters. So there's probably 2 million there, but 1.1 million of them are registered to vote in Illinois. And we assume that they're normally about, Mike, 12 to 13% of the primary in a primary election, maybe a little less in a general election. They went up and down anywhere from 8 to 14% of the primary there. Well, last night in Illinois, there was a big, big shakeup in their politics. And what do I mean by that, girls and boys? Well, that means that a senator is stepping down. And when you're running in a blue state as a senator, when you step away, there are all these other Democratic congresspeople who think they would be the best senator. And if they can win the primary, they are there for life. So when the senator stepped away, you had a congressman named, I'm going to mess up his last name, but his first name is Raja, R-A-J-A, Krishnamoorthi, Southeast Asian, Indian American brother, who had been saving his money for years because he knew when that seat came available, he'd have all the money he needed. He never spent any money on his congressional race and had about $30 million of his own money, Mike, to spend if that seat ever opened up. Well, it opens up. He's going to run. And then Juliana Stratton, the lieutenant governor, who is the lieutenant governor of Pritzker, who is a wealthy man, decides she's going to run, African-American lieutenant governor. And then Congresswoman Clark, an African-American icon of the Black Caucus, decides she's going to run. They're the three main candidates. Now, Krishnamoorthi jumps out to an early lead. He has been spending money, Mike Madrid, on Chicago TV since August of 25. And he has never come down.
Unbelievable.
He has spent
and it's not his money. It's money he's raised, right?
Right.
He's just a fiend at fundraising.
But he never spent any money. So every year he would raise $7 or $8 million, and he was a fiend, but he never spent it because he was holding it like a little mouse in his little, all of his
well, how did he go up on the air if he wasn't spending it?
No, I meant when his years as a congressperson, he saved it till it was time to spend it.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
My bad. But you're right.
He was squirreling it all away until he was ready to go. And then when he went, he had so much that he was just everywhere.
Yeah, I want people to know that a congressman can spend their congressional money on a U.S. Senate race or a presidential because it's a federal election law, and he's had to report it. It's all legal. You can see every dollar that he raised and every dollar that he spent. That's the way our FEC works in federal elections. This has nothing to do with a super PAC for Raja. And so he had spent and he had saved money for 10 years. So anyway, I'm making this way too dramatic. The lieutenant governor got in. She's backed by Pritzker. Pritzker puts together his super PAC and starts spending money to try to start competing. But this was much later.
Yeah.
Like not till the winter time. She hadn't been up on air and she was way behind. And Raja was up 20 points. But over a longer period of time, she was catching him at the end because she had the governor's money, who's a billionaire. And then the third person, the black woman who was a congresswoman, Miss Clark, people were trying to get her out because they thought she was going to cost the other black woman the seat.
Right.
Now, Stratton wins last night, and she wins by 2 points. That's all. She catches Raja and passes him and is elected. And Clark even got like 20%. The other black woman, but still beats Raj. Here's where my spur is. Mike Madrid, there were $50 million spent on this Senate race in a Democratic primary in a blue state. $50 million. $30 million spent by the candidates on the hard side so far, and about $20 million spent by outside PACs, most of that from Pritzker, supporting his girl Stratton, as he should. And I love his loyalty there. But the thing that chaps my ass is I had my team this morning go back and pull, just for something to measure, how much money was spent talking to Latinos in Spanish. And again, for all of you on the Latino Vote podcast, get off the table. Yes, most of the Latinos may speak English, but if you want to measure if they're really leaning into going and talking to Latinos, Spanish is just one of the things you can measure. Because if they're not spending money in Spanish, then I would also, and Mike would probably back me up, they're probably not also spending a separate media track in English targeted to a younger Latino community.
100% right.
Right. So they did no outreach. So when you wonder why Latinos don't know what Democrats are doing or what they stand for, is at least in Illinois, they did the opposite of what we did in Texas, and they spent no money to talk to our community. Nobody did. Just hoping that they vote for them, or maybe they see some English ad that was targeted to some white woman around Northwestern in the suburbs, because there was like 8 other congressional races going on at the same time. And nobody spent any money to talk to Latinos. So for all of you Illinois Democrats, know that I'm not happy with any of you, and this is not the way to successfully run a campaign. If you want to try to educate Latinos to tell them what you're going to be for and not just against Donald Trump, you've got to go talk to the community. This don't mean go to the quinceañera, Mike, or go to the taco truck. It means run an ad that talks to them via TV, radio, digital, and all the places where we're consuming entertainment. We're one of the fastest growing demographics out there. And to not spend any money in the Democratic primary to talk to our people is criminal. And I'm
especially when there's that much money. No, that's a great point. That's a great setup. I mean, look, Illinois is actually, I think, the 3rd or 4th largest Latino state in the country, right? There's California, Florida, Texas, and then New York, I think, is 4th. And so 5th is Illinois. So the top 5.
Yeah,
huge.
Chicago.
It's huge. Chicago area, largely urban, not entirely, but largely. So there are Hispanic dense precincts that we can look at. And I was on a podcast with Chuck Todd and Chris Eliza last night for Decision Desk, looking at the results coming in. And what I was looking for, I'm going to tell you what I was looking for. I was looking for whether or not Latino voters in Hispanic dense precincts would vote for a black woman. Because as you know, I've been getting the shit kicked out of me for the past year when Latinos left Kamala Harris and didn't vote for Jasmine Crockett, and saying, this idea that somehow Latinos are inherently racist and misogynist, which is complete nonsense. But that's how Democrats play politics. I don't know how you guys all tolerate it.
Whatever. Don't beat me up. Stay on your track.
Yeah. And clearly, Stratton, black woman's path to victory included overperformance with Latino voters.
I can tell you this right now, Mike, just so it helps, is that I looked this morning and she had won all the precincts in downtown Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. So you go in a 3-way race. And so you can't get to that level of support unless you're getting Latino support. You just can't. Especially when there's another black woman in the race who is clearly also getting support. So that to me, like it says, okay, can we finally put that to rest? And of course we won't, because Democrats can't put it to rest. Sorry. One last one there. But more importantly, to your point, all of these campaigns were extraordinarily well funded. Y'all knew that the Latino vote was going to be critical in this. How do you only spend like $25,000, $50,000 when you've got a $35 million budget and there's 1 million registered voters and it's one of the largest constituencies in the Illinois primary, and it's a Democratic primary, which means it's even bigger? Like, I don't get I don't understand. Even if you're not a believer in the medium, you have enough money to make a symbolic gesture.
That's what I'm getting at.
Significant.
Exactly.
It's like, just play the politics right. Even if it's not good, if you convince yourself that it's not good tactically, okay, we can have that debate. I understand that. But symbolically, you're not hurting for money. None of you are. None of you are. So what does that say?
It's just so disrespectful. Let me give you two more figures, Mike. J.B. Pritzker, the Democrat and billionaire, endorsed Stratton and contributed $5 million to a super PAC just to give her the early TV time while she raised money to try to catch up with Raja, right? Of that $5 million, he spends less than $50,000 in Spanish. Out of $5 million, y'all can do your math there. It's disrespectful. Secondly, there was a crypto PAC. These crypto boys are spending that money. And I'm just going to say that the crypto PAC called Fair Shake spent $10 million back in Congressman Raja. $10 million, and none of it was spent talking to not one Latino, at least in Spanish.
Yeah, that's crazy. So who are the big winners? Pritzker was a big winner. Strat was a big winner. Congressman Raja, big loser. Crypto boys are big losers.
Right. AIPAC came in and they have just got rid of all that shit on their face from that New Jersey race that we talked about.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
They shit the bed.
Yeah.
So they weighed in here for about $21 million, and they had 4 people running, and they won 2 of 4. But they spent $20 million to go 50 for 50.
Any of it on Spanish language medium?
No.
Oh, AIPAC.
None of it. None of it.
You need friends, AIPAC.
This is my point. My point here, y'all, is this, is that we just saw what happened in Texas with James Tallarico. Even with Jasmine Crockett, who spent some money in Spanish, a decent amount, but not nowhere compared to James and James's super PAC. Or let me say super PACs that support James. James is separate, but they were supporting him. And you saw this unbelievable performance for James Tallarico that just can't be argued in the Texas Valley and other places where there's heavy races. Then you go to this state, and this is the main point. This is the part you write down with your pencil, is that I don't know, Mike, of one single Latino operative that was a senior strategist on any of these races or in any of these PACs. And there wasn't a single Latino manager of any of these races. And you know what happens when you don't have a Mike Madrid or a Chuck Rocha or an Adrian Saenz or somebody else that's senior that does this work? You don't have any spending because you have some white consultants who they don't really vote. They discern late. They're not a big enough percentage of the overall electorate. To Mike's point, I get that argument if you're spending $1 million on a statewide race. You've only got so many resources. Go talk to the 65% of white voters that you need to win. But if you're spending $50 million, just be smart enough to do a symbolic buy for a couple million and be like, look at our performance with Latinos. Look what we did. And then you want to come at me and say, why Latinos don't understand what Democrats stand for when in Illinois, you don't think it's worth spending any money in Spanish to even have a fucking conversation.
I just don't understand the politics, like you said. We can disagree on the math and the roadmap and all that, but you can't disagree with the optics. You have a 3-way race with 2 black female candidates and an Indian congressman. How do you not go after the Latino vote in a symbolic and substantive way, like both? And like I said, you have more money than the printing press can push out. I don't. Anybody who tells me, and again, I'm not trying to be partisan here, but let's just be honest about it. Like, if you think the Democrats know what they're doing with the Latino vote, Exhibit A is the Illinois primary last night. They have no idea. It doesn't even occur to them. Like, maybe we should throw a couple 6 figures out of our $35 million budget. Nuts. Just absolutely absurd.
And at the same time, guys, staying on the same topic of I'm going after Democrats, now I'm going to go after Republicans in a different way. If you were reading Punch Bowl News this week, there is Adam Wren, who's a good friend of me and Madrid and other reporters over there. Adam's with Politico. This was actually in Punch Bowl. My bad. Yeah. They put out the Republicans now, Mike. I'd love your take on this. I sent this to you right after it happened. Mm-hmm. They have had some focus groups and they've done them some polling, Mike. And the Republicans in the House say they may be in trouble with Latino voters, and they got to figure out what's going on. Can you tell us, Mike Madrid?
It's a hiccup, right?
It's a hiccup. Johnson I forgot about the hiccup.
It's just a little hiccup.
That's what, for those of you who don't know, that's what Mike Johnson said, and Mike took him to task on Twitter.
Yeah, and I wrote a whole piece about it saying, brother, this was a roar. This wasn't a hiccup. Like, people are pissed. Like, This is like anti-Republican sentiment. The only year worse than what this is going to be for Republicans is 2018. Again, there's a long way to go. Maybe they turn it around. I don't know. I doubt it. Look at the fundamentals of this race. I think you're going to have very high turnout. Incidentally, this is important, by the way. Not real high Latino turnout in Chicago because they weren't talking to them. It's a good. You need to write a piece analyzing this whole debacle. Anyway, I'm gonna get
What's the difference between Texas and Illinois? Like it's pretty clear tonight. I mean, this morning.
It's really clear. Like, here's the difference maker. And you know what? Shame on Congressman Raja. If you came in second by 2 points, you want to know where those 2 points were? I'll tell you. I'll walk you down the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
I'll show you. Right. That's on you. That's on the crypto bros. But look, the Republicans have I haven't seen the fundamentals this bad since probably 1994 when the Republicans took over Congress after Democrats were in the majority for 40 years. Like, there is nothing breaking right for the Republicans right now. The fact that they had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars doing focus group with Latinos, which I'm sure it was some like Yale graduate who worked for the DS,
they had wrote their thesis on it.
Yeah, the Republican, senatorial committee convinced themselves that they hired some Cuban kid to be their Latino front, and now they're going to act like they're the Latino experts for the Republicans and go out and do these focus groups that tell them, hey, we got a problem. Yeah, no shit, you got a problem.
You definitely have a problem.
This is what happens when you start attacking a community and hunting them down and ruin their family's finances all at the same time. You had to try really hard to mess up with these voters. You had the biggest opening with the best honeymoon, all of the accolades, a huge new restart, reboot. I hadn't seen that in 3 decades, that big of an opening for the Republican Party. You break 50-50 with a guy like Donald Trump.
Can you imagine, Mike?
Step on it. You step on it within a month of taking office.
Can you imagine if Donald Trump had just closed the border, kept ICE out of the street, didn't start a war, and started talking about – he would be at 60% with Latinos right now.
Just go golfing at Mar-a-Lago, dude. Right. Just go drool on yourself.
But he does the
opposite.
Golf
cart.
Right.
And just step out of it. Don't cause the problem. Or better yet, like, can't somebody pick up the cell phone and say, hey, call Lindsey Graham and say, hey, Lindsey, when you're on the golf course with Donald Trump, can you tell him just to back off a little bit? Like, just back off. We're winning with these voters. This is our new majority. This is our new permanent coalition. Couldn't do it. I predicted this. The Republicans cannot help themselves. They will always overplay their hand. If you read my book in the Latino Century, the first sentence I say and the problems that Republicans have is all they have to do is stop being racist. And you know what? It's much harder for them than you think. They cannot help themselves. And there are so many openings for them and opportunities. You don't get openings like that with a new constituency or realignment, but once a generation. It is the shortest honeymoon in the history of American politics, where Latinos voted for this guy, and literally within a month, they're like, you know what? I think we've made a terrible mistake.
Let me ask you a question.
And backing up. Yeah.
So here's the biggest difference in this election. You keep drawing this comparison of 2018.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. But it's a different time than 2018. Yeah. We saw that in these Texas primaries. You didn't have record turnout. Folks, in Texas, I keep going back to this. It ain't because just James Talarico or just Chuck Rocha or you name your congressional race. But in Texas, more Democrats voted than voted in the presidential primary from Obama and Clinton.
It's crazy.
If you've learned anything here from Mike Madrid and Chuck Rocha, is that turnout for a presidential primary is normally double or triple what it is in an off-year election cycle, and they did it. So something different's happening. But Mike, here's the question. Here's the biggest election difference between right now and 2018. Donald Trump, since the time he's got in office, this second time, has not only enriched himself, but he has created a super PAC that he himself controls, that as of today has $300 million in it, and it may have 500 by the end, if not 600. I need to know, keep in mind this other fact before you answer, is that in every race, including 2018, Democrats outspent Republicans almost 2-1 to win all those seats. That will not happen this year. And if Donald Trump starts spending $400-500 million in 15 congressional races, you can't tell me that don't make some difference.
It certainly does make a difference. There's no question about it. But I do remember talking to reporters in 2018 about, kind of the money race, the money grab, and who was going to be winning. And look, the Republicans are going to have a decided financial advantage, huge advantage. But guess what, Chuck? They're going to need every dime of it. And I'm not even sure that holds them back. But let's also be clear. Have you ever seen an election cycle where campaigns ran out of money? It doesn't happen. Like
maybe in a congressional race,
maybe in a congressional race here or there. And yeah, if we would have invested a little bit on the outside, but in these battleground seats and districts, the money's going to come. When it comes is always usually a function of the political climate, but it's so rare to have a race that runs out of money. That's like, man, we could have won if we just had a couple million more dollars. Those millions of dollars materialize 99.99% of the time. So yeah, you're right. The question is going to be how the Democrats spend, how they message, despite being outspent 3-1. Because I think it's going to be that big. I think the Republicans will outspend Democrats 3-1.
The difference this time is, unlike what we saw in Illinois, is that there is more work going on right now, and we are at March, the end of March here. I have already, and I'm not going to give inside information, but let's just say House PACs, House committees, meeting with Latino consultants, doing early Latino polling, going in and building operations on the ground, looking at digital TV. Like, Democrats know there's one path to win this vote back. They're not going to make the mistake that was made in Illinois, because the party committees and the super PACs have not only Chuck Rocha, but many Chuck Roaches around them now going, look, let's figure this out. This vote is moving. We can see it's dynamic. Can we figure out, let's bring in Eckies, let's bring in all this research. We have to figure out what's going on, because we're not going to have our ass handed to us again. Again, that is not the individual races. I think a lot of them still lack a lot. But the party committees and the super PACs have been like, no. We have enough money, to Mike Madrid's point. We're at least going to try to do this the right way. And they may fuck it up, but at least they're trying. And I've been doing this for 36 years, and I've never seen them trying as hard. But again, what does that mean when you have Donald Trump spending $200 million, hopefully in some Spanish and English, saying, promises made, promises kept. Yeah. You got this and you got this.
Well, I hope you're right. I'm going to say it sounds a lot like 2024 when the Democrats announced 3 times, we're going out earlier than ever before, we're going out with bigger investment ever before. 3 times, there were 3 announcements, and they ended up having a historic loss because, as I will say, and I've been saying it here, I wrote a book about it, saying it for years, I don't care how much money you have if your message ain't right. If you're selling something that our community ain't buying, it ain't going to work. And that's where I think the Democrats, it's good that they're engaged. There's no question about it. And even Republicans, I've never seen a Republican midterm, except maybe in 2000 when I was doing RNC work, where we established a new majority, and I worked with, what's his name? The old famous Houston pollster. His name, Lance Terrence, brilliant, genius guy. Lance was a buddy of my business partner for a while. This is going 26 years ago. And we did really early focus groups and research work on Latino voters, and we were like convinced we were going to be able to move them over. That was the last time, 26 years ago, that the RNC was doing this kind of work. So kudos to both sides. You and I have both been clamoring for this. We want to see historically early attention and focus and research being done in our community. The good news is they're both doing it.
Right.
Are they going to figure it out? I'm not hopeful, but at least they're doing it, to your point. It is a step in the right direction.
I think you're right. Mike, another point is last week you talked about us not having no women on this podcast. I thought you said you was going to invite a woman to be on this week.
Was that my bad?
Did we get that done?
I've got a couple of women, maybe in the comment section. You guys, comment if you're on YouTube or just send us a note.
That ain't what I'm talking about. I think we invited a woman congresswoman from Texas, and I don't think we heard back because I thought we did some intentional stuff this week.
I don't think we've made that invite yet. But I can mention it, but we will make that. We will make that. But I do want to mention some people that I've been thinking about. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
I want to get Jasmine Ulloa on. She's a writer for the New York Times. I think she may have been on the show before. She just
El Paso?
came out, huh?
El Paso?
Her book came out, and it is good. It's a book called El Paso. You guys need to read it. We're gonna we'll do an interview. Maybe it'll be a special episode of the Latino Vote podcast. I knew her when she was writing for the LA Times here in LA, in California, 10, 15 years ago. She's gone on to do amazing things, but one of the things that is a true masterpiece is the way that she covered the El Paso shootings If many of you remember, there's kind of a Texas psycho who drove out to a Walmart and started shooting up, hunting down Mexicans, years ago, previous Trump administration. But that catalyzed a book on her hometown called El Paso. And it is beautiful. It's part love letter, part history book, part understanding of the future. I know, Chuck, you probably ain't going to read it, but I'll give you an audible version of it. You can listen to it.
That's the only way I'm going to read it.
Yeah. And we'll have a discussion about the book, if that would be, I'd love to have her. If there's other suggestions, we have had, by the way, we're starting to get a lot of people reaching out that are not Latinos. At some point, we're probably going to have to break that rule, Chuck, but we're not going to yet. But some very prominent national figures have reached out to ask if they could be on the show. We have not accepted any of those yet, but we will probably have some in short order. Are there any women voices that you want to hear and have highlighted?
Yeah, I want this congresswoman from down in South Texas to come on so we can ask her some questions since you're so in love with Bobby Polito. We got to make this fair.
He's talking about Monica de la Cruz, who's the Republican running against Bobby Polito. And I would love to have her on in a very respectful format and have a discussion with her. So we will extend that invitation. Andreas will push that out today and see what kind of response. We'll follow up with a phone call and see if we can't get some more Republican members on the phone. On the podcast, and we'll make that.
I got two more things.
Yeah.
One thing is before our big announcement at the end, I'm leading up to that. I want to give a shout out. We have a lot of folks who listen to our podcast every week, and I hear from them. Mike hears from them when we're in the airports. They come up and speak to us. I was at a thing last night with James Tallarico, and I'm not going to say where we were. Keep that between us, but there was a congressman who showed up, Joe Neguse from Colorado, African-American brother. He is the assistant speaker, like he's in leadership. And he walked by and I'm like, Congressman Neguse, I'm a big fan. I have my stupid cowboy hat on and all. I'm like, here's my wife, Ebony, meet us. And he's like, I know who you are, Chuck. He goes, I listen to you and Mike's podcast. I was like, what? You do? He's like, yeah, I love y'all's podcast. And I was like, God, it never ceases to amaze me. So today, I want to shout out one of our most, biggest listeners, Sean Room, Room. Sean actually lives in Chicago.
Sean.
Shout out again, Illinois.
All
Sean
right.
listens every week. He's always texting me some stuff. But Sean last night texted me a picture of his brand new daughter. Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Welcome to the world,
Nice.
Nora Room. Beautiful daughter he just had. Now he's got a whole bucket load of kids over there. But Sean listens every week. He's also a great digital consultant. We do some work with him at the firm, and I really appreciate Sean listening every week.
Yeah, congratulations, Sean. Welcome, Nora. It sounds like we've got another Latino podcast listener, so that's great.
We got to get onesies for these kids that says Latino Vote Podcast on them.
That's a great idea.
I like that. Last thing is the giant announcement. Me and Mike have been teasing you about the Latino Vote Summit. It's a thing now. Mike Madrid's actually give him his credit card number, so it's real. We've got a room. I'm not going to tell you exactly where the room is, but you got to mark your calendar for June the 23rd in Washington, D.C., Latino Vote Summit, bringing hundreds of Latino leaders from around the country in one room. Mike, tell them about it.
Well, the first is you got to remember that I'm the only co-host here that actually has a credit card that
This
works.
is true.
So that's important.
I was going to give him some gold bars, but
yeah.
I didn't want to give him my gold bars.
The idea here is we're going to bring people together because the show has been so successful in talking across the aisle and trying to build towards a common Latino political agenda. We're not interested in the typical bullshit of people kind of throwing bombs at one another. If you're interested in having a constructive conversation with people broadly across the aisle on other interests, we want to hear from you. Now, space is going to be very, very limited. I think we're only going to have a few hundred people. But if you are interested, send us a note now. We'll get you on the list to start communicating with you. We can't guarantee, by the way, that you're
limited space.
Very limited, the limited space. And this is designed not to be just a free-for-all. This is designed for people who want to have a constructive conversation in the community, are open to other ideas, aren't afraid to criticize their own party, all as long as you are interested in advocating for our community and fighting for our issues with other people outside of the red and blue foxholes that are damaging our community. It doesn't mean you can't be a good Republican or a good Democrat. We want you to be, you should be, but if you can't speak truth to power in your own party, this is probably not the event for you.
And we want to bring together again, I would make this rule in front of Mike Madrid. They will only be Latino speakers, but they will be Latino business leaders, Latino labor leaders, Latino environmentalists, Latino business leaders. Like, we want to hear from all the different aspects of our community in one room that says, here's what our community thinks, and here's what we want to see. I am a Latino business owner. I am a Latino Chamber of the Commerce member or officer. This is what business owners are telling me. And then I want that person sitting with the Latino labor leader who's saying, here's what my members in my construction trade are saying they're having to go through right now. And I bet by the end of this, and this is me and Mike's goal, is that business leader and that labor leader, their workers probably want a lot of the same things. And we're going to concentrate on the 60 and 70% of the things that we have in common instead of the 20% of the things that we disagree on. Because all we ever do on social media or Twitter is highlight those things that make us hate each other, not the things we could constructively be working on together to try to make our movement have a bigger voice in politics. Right, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just excited about this. Chuck and I have been talking about it for a few years. A lot of people have reached out, for fans of the show. People who know us separately who are saying, you guys need to do this. You guys need to start convening people in person. And I think that they're absolutely right. So, again, it's July. Chuck, do we have a date?
Yes, it is June the 23rd.
I'm sorry, June
in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
It's only a one-day conference only. It will be an invite only. We're going to start in the morning. We're going to go through the morning. We have a very, very special luncheon luncheon program, which is going to be a Latino town hall with everybody there who's going to ask a question of a certain Latino senator who's going to be there to answer questions about what the Latino vote wants to see. And then we'll have a couple panels in the afternoon, maybe have a reception, and then call it a day. We don't want to have people be here more than one day. We know it's busy in June. But the goal here is to be talking about the things on the podcast of, we're going to talk about data, we're going to talk about the media, we're going to talk about the strategy, and we're going to talk about the issues. Those are probably the 4 panels that will be built around the Latino town hall that will happen at lunch. And there will be a lot of press in the room as well, covering this, because we want them there to cover this, to see what's the Latino community demanding of their politicians. So as you can tell, I'm really excited about it. You can tell Mike's excited. Mike's so excited again. He gave me his credit card number. The room is held. It's going to be awesome. I've also bought some wine and some steaks with that credit card, but that's a story for a different day. Madrid, just relax.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to get some notices from my
It's all right.
credit
It's just
card
a fishing
company.
trip. Don't worry. It's just a fishing trip. So February, Jesus Christ, June 23rd, write it down. It's going to be great. Listen to the Latino Vote podcast. Like it, share it. It means something. We want to see all your shiny faces. Send us DMs if you want to make sure you're on the invite list, because there ain't but 2 waters who are going to determine who's coming to this thing. And it's me and Mike. And the only person that can veto Mike's is me. And the only one that can veto one of mine is Mike. So it's going to be good. You better screw your wig on tight, because we're going to have a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for being with us, guys. This has been a really exceptional, if not heavy episode. Big moment in Latino politics. Breaking news today about César Chávez. Clearly going to have huge ramifications on the narrative and arc of Latino political history. Thank you all for being a part of that history, for joining us in this community, and for helping take us to the next level. If you still have your mama, give her a call. Tell her you love her. Yes. How's that, Chuck? Pretty good, right? And we will see you all next week.
Giddy up. Goodbye.